Hey, Oren Ross here with another episode of the Libertarian Lawyer with Oren Ross. And before I go to the news or anything today, there's been something that's been bothering me for a while, and I'm in a few networking groups, and in one of these groups, there's a woman who every time she introduces herself, she says that her business is a certified woman-owned business. It seemed pretty obvious to me that she's a woman and it's her business. So I assumed it was owned by a woman. But why does that matter? Why does anybody care? Why does it matter if it's a minority owned business or a woman owned business? Uh, should I start advertising that I have a white male owned business? I mean, is that what we're getting to? Because I'm pretty sure that's not going in the direction that everybody says we're supposed to be going. We're supposed to be looking less at race and gender and just looking at people based on, like the content of their character. But instead, what we have is a society where not only do you get social credit for it, now we have a president who is promising to give things to minority owned businesses and women owned businesses. um, when you finish that sentence, that's they're giving them something to the disadvantage of the white males. So basically, if you're a white male, screw you, and everybody else jumps in ahead of the line. So I just kind of it really pisses me off because it doesn't matter. I don't really care if you have a marketing company. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're black or Chinese or Indian or whatever it is. Are you good at marketing? Okay, well then that's your job. Do it. Don't depend on your gender or your race or anything else because none of that really matters. So so we've got a president who now the media is absolutely in love with. Um, and they just fall all over themselves for this guy. And now, of course, they're talking about his favorite ice cream, which is chocolate chip, because he's just an exciting man. Um, but it seems like what they're doing is just trying to make this guy everybody's grandpa, so that you don't realize how utterly corrupt he is. So he's supposed to be worth about $10 million. And that doesn't really make much sense because he was only out of office for, I mean, like technically he was out for 4 years, right? But he was running for president for like at least another one. So he was working for like 3 years and made 10 million bucks. I mean, that's crazy. That's where you get to this soft corruption where, it's not actually corruption, but you do favors for people and then you get out of office and they pay you $500,000 to talk for 20 minutes. Like, isn't there something we can do about that? That seems pretty shady. I mean, it doesn't even pass the smell test. Like, oh yeah, hey, $500,000 to talk for like 20 minutes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because he's so inspirational. He did so much. Really, what Joe Biden did was not die. That's all he did. Like, eventually, if you stay in politics long enough, eventually, if you want to, you can take a swipe at the presidency. And this is this dude's third swipe. So that brings me to one of the issues. So they have this lady named Jen Psaki, who is also from the Obama administration. Surprise, surprise. She's now the press secretary, and the press are falling all over themselves, saying, "Oh, now we're going to have somebody who's honest and going to answer our questions and be transparent." That's the biggest lie they could tell you, because number one, every press secretary has to lie. That's just part of the job. You have to try to spin things in a positive light. Um, that being said, they always say that, like, the media people will say that, like Jay Carney is like the top tier guy, and all the Trump people were just terrible. That's crazy because Jay Carney was the liar in chief. Like, that dude would just lie his ass off day in, day out, and he had to. because the Obama administration was doing really stupid things, and you have to try to justify that to the public. So they're saying that this is going to bring a lot more transparency. Um, no, it won't. You know how I know? Because the Obama administration, which is the Biden administration, like, it's all the same people. They're the only ones who actually went after reporters. They tried to get reporters put in jail for telling things that they didn't want to have happen. That's what happened to General Flynn too, because what he did was basically out what the Obama administration was doing in Syria, I believe. He outed what they were doing, and so they burned him, and they had the FBI investigate him, and they found the FBI notes where they said, "What are we trying to do? Are we trying to get him to confess to something, or are we just trying to get him fired?" This is obviously just a political hit job against. He's like a 4-star general, right? I mean, doesn't really get much higher than that, as far as I'm concerned. But it doesn't really matter, because you screw with them, they're going to burn you as hard as they can. But anyway, so this Biden presidency, right? They're going to be so trustworthy, so transparent. Okay, let me pull this up for you. Apparently, Forbes says I've reached my end of free articles. However, what I was looking at was a Forbes article that says that the Biden administration will bring trust and transparency back to the White House, because you couldn't tell what Trump was thinking 24 hours of the day by looking at Twitter, right? But what people don't seem to realize is that this guy has been in this job, or basically some federal job, for his entire life. All right. He is corruption as far as it goes. I mean, look, 1988. All right. I think this was the first time this dude ran for president. He had to drop out before the primaries because what he was doing, he basically stole his life story from this British Labour Party leader, Neil Kinnock. All right. Didn't attribute it to him. He basically made this story his own. This is not the first time, because he also plagiarized things in law school. He's plagiarized numerous speeches, and some of that maybe you can forgive, because good speeches might get stuck in your head and you start thinking along the same lines as the speechwriter. But this dude had to drop out. All right, the blame totally fell on me. Right, this is the guy who's supposed to be really open and transparent, right? The guy who is making up stories and just lying his way through everything. This is the guy who's been helping out the credit card companies for years and years and years, because he's a senator from Delaware, and he helps them out. You know why? Because they help him get elected. Because this is another politician who doesn't really care about anything. Like this dude doesn't really have principles. Okay, you can tell because he changes what he believes almost every day. All he has to do, like, he basically looks at Twitter, and Twitter tells him what he believes, because these crazy leftists are just driving so far off the cliff, they're going to drag all these other people with them. What that's going to leave us with is basically, well, we're tied to the rope too. So they're going to either pull us off the cliff, or we're going to cut the rope. And I don't really know which it's going to be, but I hope we cut the rope at some point. But they're just dragging this dude off. He's got no principles. He doesn't care about anything. He's just he's a useless person who stuck around long enough that eventually everybody felt sorry for him, and he was such a non-entity that he could run for president and hide in his basement, because Trump has a huge personality. So a lot of people either love him or hate him. And I think, there's probably a lot of people in the middle like me who, like a lot of the things that he did, but, didn't really like all the tweets. And I mean, some of the tweets were hilarious, but, some of them, it's just like the wrong time, wrong place, wrong time. He was just throwing things out, and some of it didn't work. But a lot of these dudes, they don't care. They don't have any principles. Like I like Rand Paul personally, because I saw a video of him giving it to George Stephanopoulos real good today. And because George Stephanopoulos was saying, there's no evidence of voter fraud, and all these cases that have gone to trial, there's no evidence. And Rand says, well, not really, because most of them got thrown out on procedural grounds. They said you don't have standing, and he told this dude George Stephanopoulos not to insert himself in the middle. And that's what he's doing. That's what all these reporters do, because they're supposed to report, and then you decide what you think, right? That's somebody's slogan. We report, you decide. It's no longer that. There is zero evidence of voter fraud. Okay, so they're making definitive statements. They're not allowing you to waver either way. And if you say, well, maybe we should just look into it, because there's always voter fraud. I mean, there's 330 million people in this country. It'd be really hard to not have voter fraud. So we should at least look into it and just, make everybody feel better about the elections. They don't want to do that. And the only logical explanation that I can think of is that they don't want to do that because they know that the election was not legitimate, right? That would be the logical conclusion. Why would someone not want to investigate it? If I won an election and I knew that I won, I'd say, go ahead, let's investigate. No. Let's go ahead and do this. And then you can shove it in their face and say, yeah, I told you so. That would make you look like a boss, right? But they don't want to do that. They're trying to sweep it under the rug as fast as possible. If somebody tries to sweep something under the rug that fast, they did something. All right, somebody's guilty of something. But anyway, I just can't believe that they let this dude into the White House, and he's in charge of the nuclear weapons, right? Like everybody freaked out when Trump was president, and they said, he's going to start a nuclear war. Well, he didn't actually start any wars. He increased drone strikes overseas, and maybe we shouldn't be over there doing all those things in Yemen and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and where the hell else ever. But he didn't actually start any wars. He tried to get troops out of Syria as much as he could, except for the people in the bureaucracy lying to him about how many troops were there, so that he thought he pulled out troops, or he thought he pulled out the vast majority of troops. Turns out he didn't, because they told him that there weren't that many there. So what we have is basically just a government that is off the tracks. It's just running full steam ahead. Nothing matters. Nothing can get in its way. And even if like a general, like General Flynn gets in the way, they just run you over. They throw you down, run you over, and keep going. And they don't care. And that's the problem. The FBI is part of this. I'm sure the CIA is, even though they're not supposed to operate on US soil. We all know how that works. But this is going to continue going downhill, because what's happening is there are no repercussions for any of these things that happen. James Clapper lied in front of Congress about collecting all of that information from cell phones for the NSA. He committed perjury. There is zero doubt that he committed perjury. He's never been tried. He's never been convicted of anything. And I'm pretty sure he's like a CNN contributor. They're probably paying him good money to sit there and talk like he's an authority on it. Yeah, he's an authority on bullshitting people. Same thing with John Brennan. That dude just lies his ass off, and then he goes on CNN and gets paid to sit there and look like Frankenstein. And we're all stuck listening to it. Ben Shapiro. Trump turning Biden into the normcore president. So that's what I meant by they want him to seem like a grandpa. He's such a non-threatening person at this point, but he's not, because if it's true that all of this corruption actually leads back to him, And it does, whether it's directly or indirectly, because if his son is giving them money or buying them things or buying properties and then giving them properties to them, one way or another, they're involved. It might not be directly, it might not be with so much knowledge, but it seems like it is based on what that Tony Bobulinski guy said and all the paperwork that he brought out and that laptop. You know, there's substantial evidence that something really shady like this is happening, especially since Joe Biden flew his son on Air Force Two to China for a private equity deal. That's corruption. Okay, that's absolutely corruption. I don't give a shit what anybody says. That's corruption. If you are the vice president and your son has a deal to do in China, you say, "Shit, man, let's just take Air Force Two. I'll take you." What you're doing is lending credibility to him, not only because you're the vice president, but you're the vice president showing up with him on Air Force Two. Okay, everybody sees you come in. I'm sure the Chinese know about it. I'm sure they all knew what was happening, and it just makes it that much more corrupt because there's no way that he didn't know. So this dude is not, he's not dangerous. He could be very dangerous depending on how corrupt he might be. I'm going to say that he's at least 50% corrupt. Like, he's a politician. And that's the thing that really pisses me off about the media right now, treating him like he's Jesus. The dude's a politician, okay? So 99% of politicians should probably be shot, honestly. I mean, really not honestly. YouTube, don't ban me. That was just a joke. But politicians are not the best people, obviously. So for them to just worship him now, like he's never done anything wrong, that's just so crazy. Like they're supposed to be, what do they call themselves? Like the fourth estate. Like they're supposed to be watching over, the government, making sure the government doesn't step out of line. They're supposed to, be sort of a counterbalance to all these things. If the president tells you one thing, then they say, well, not really, it's this. But apparently that only happens with Republican presidents. If it's a Democrat as a president, then you can say whatever you want and nobody ever says anything about it. Everybody thinks it's perfectly fine. So I am not going to continue this for much longer because I'm just going to start ranting. And I have a headache as usual. I mean, I always have headaches, but I got to put the kid to bed. But basically, we have a president who doesn't know where he is, who is probably corrupt. I mean, he's at least softly corrupt. He might be owned by China. I mean, like it seems like that's a pretty reasonable leap to make. If his son has like some $1 billion deal set up with them, and they were giving, they gave him like a $5 million interest-free forgivable loan. So they're basically just giving you 5 million and you don't have to pay taxes on it because it's a loan. That's bullshit. I wish somebody would give me a loan with no interest that was forgivable, but that's never going to happen because I'm just a white male and I'm not a Democrat. So I'm just shit out of luck there. So we'll get off early here today. I just wanted to, I'm trying to do these more regularly. And I really wanted to kind of bitch about the woman-owned business thing because it just strikes me as needy and just kind of gross that you are depending on your gender to describe your business. Like I would never describe my business as a male-owned business or a man-owned business because that's completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with anything. I mean, maybe if it's like a woman-owned bikini wax shop, okay, that might make sense. Or woman-owned gynecologist office, okay, that makes sense, right? Things where maybe being a woman might make a difference, because I know my wife did not like her male gynecologist who delivered our baby, and I can kind of agree with her because he made some really creepy jokes, and winked at me a couple times, and it was really strange. It was kind of off-putting, especially with a lot of blood everywhere. So that's pretty much it for today. And got my little mic stand now. I'm trying to be a little bit more professional, even though I'm not a professional at anything except being a lawyer. Sometimes I got yelled at today by a crazy woman who got a $15,000 settlement offer from an insurance company because somebody backed into her in a Walmart parking lot. She claims that it totaled her car. All right. And she also claims that she's injured two discs or re-injured two discs in her back because of this. She has turned down the $15,000 offer, and we're going to trial, but she refuses to answer any of these interrogatories. And it's just so annoying. Like, lady, you're the one who wanted to go to trial, right? Like, you could have settled. Nobody's making you go to trial. She's so incensed. She says, I have a right not to answer any questions. No, you don't, because you're suing someone. They have a right to ask you some questions too. This is not one-sided. This is not a lynch mob. All right. They get to have a say too. And then the judge decides what's going to happen, or the jury, as the case may be. But it's always weird when these people just don't seem to get that. And I keep trying to explain, especially in this case, you're the one making these decisions. If you don't like the results, change the decisions you're making. I mean, you don't have to go to trial. You could say, yeah, give me 15 grand today, and it would be over. But instead, we're going to try to do this for a few years because, the legal system is completely backed up for like a year, and it's probably going to get worse. It's probably never going to end, especially in shit Fulton County. I mean, it's just a terrible place, Never go to jail in Fulton County. That's the best advice I can give you. Never go to jail in Fulton County, because the court system here is so fucked, because Paul Howard was the DA for forever, and he was also corrupt, and they're like 4, 5, 6, 7 years behind on these criminal cases. People just get arrested and you bond out, and then that's it. It was like I thought we had a right to a speedy trial in the Constitution. I don't think like 4, 5, 6 years is a speedy trial. Doesn't seem too speedy when you could go to Cobb County and the same thing would be over in 6 months. But Fulton County is just a great place to be, and that's why I'm really looking to move out of here, maybe go to Forsyth County or somewhere else, depending on school systems. But Fulton, and we're in Johns Creek. There's no reason we should be in Fulton County. This should not be in Fulton County. They should cut that off at the 285, the perimeter. Why are we in the same county as a town like 50 miles that way, like Union City, like way far down there? That makes no sense. They just wanted to get some tax money so they could steal tax money, because taxation is theft, and they wanted to just spread it around to everybody else, which is bullshit. Taxation is bullshit. Maybe I'll just play some Ron Swanson quotes one day and just pretend that's me. But anyway, that's it for me. Like, subscribe, please. You can download on iTunes, and one of these days when I don't have a severe fucking headache, I'm going to get more prepared, like tomorrow, ideally, and have some better articles and things that we can look at, because I know a lot of people, and I didn't really have the time today, but a lot of people don't really have the time or the inclination to do it. So maybe I can do it for you and you'll watch or listen. All right. So that's it for me. And